This week, we are going to be completing exercises 3 and 4 from the Chapter 6 lab assignment. And I've given you some code to review that is going to be similar to the program you need to create. So we will kind of walk through this code and then we will talk about the directions. So this code is a members list. And so you can see the data type we are using here is list. And in angle brackets, we are telling it is a string list because a list is a generic collection. That means it is strongly typed and we have to give it a data type. So list is a string, and we are going to call list members. So the object name is members. And then we set it equal to new list. And again, you have to give it string. And then we're initializing it. And remember, you don't have to initialize with values, but you do have to include the left and the right curly brace and the semicolon. So you can put values in when you create the list, or you can add them later. But you have to have the curly braces as part of your statement. And then I've got a string called name, and that is empty. And then I've also got a string array that I'm calling name array. Okay, and then I've got a variable called menu that I'm setting to 0. And then I prompt the user, please make a selection from the menu. And then you'll see I've got, 1, print sorted, 2, add to list, 3, delete from list, or 4, quit. Okay, and so we take our menu variable and we are reading in from the console. And then you can see that we have a while loop. So as long as they don't type a 4, we are going to stay in the loop. And you can use a switch for this, or you can use a nested if else, totally up to you. But you want to check to see if the menu is equal to 1. If it is, then you have to print out the members. And I've created a method for this. If you would like to create a method for the menu, go ahead. But I've created a method for print list, and I'm passing it members. So let's take a look at that. So this is a static method. I am not returning anything. And typically you do not return things from a print method. Here's the method name. And so my data type is list, and then in angle brackets string. While I am in this method, I am going to refer to the object, that list object, as mem. Okay, and the first thing I do is I sort it. Okay, and then I go through a for each loop. Okay, this is a string list. Okay, and while I am in this loop, I'm going to refer to each element retrieved as S. Okay, so it's string S in the name of my list is mem. So basically it's going to go through the list. It's going to retrieve each name. Okay, and each name is going to be stored in S, and it's going to print that out. So the first time through, it's going to retrieve Mickey, print it out, and it's going to retrieve Minnie, print it out. And actually, it's going to do it in alphabetical order, so I lied. It's actually going to do Daisy first, then Donald, let's see, then Mickey, and then Minnie, okay, because we sorted. Okay, and then it goes up here and it returns to the point it was called from. Then we go all the way down here where we display the menu again, and they make their choice. And as long as it's not 4, we're going to stay in here. If it's a 2, then they are going to be adding to the list. And so you can see that we are calling a add list method, and we are not passing in anything because the method is going to handle adding the data. So let's go down and take a look at what it does. We've got add list here, and you will see that it is passing a string array back to the point it was called. So we will be filling in a string array. So how many members do you wish to add? We're reading that in. We are creating a new string array with the number they indicated. Then we're going to do a for loop, whatever number of times they indicated. And we prompt them for the member name. We read it and we store it. By the time we're done with this loop, we will have the new members that they wanted to add. And so we return our new members string array. That gets returned to here. And it is stored in this array. So if you look up here, I have a string array that I created with nothing in it. And now I do have something in it. I called add list, it filled in the array. And now my name array contains everything that we just added. Then I take my member object, okay, members, and I call the add range method. And I pass it the name array. And what it does is it takes all of those new names that I just added and it adds them to the end of the member list. And so then after you do that, it's going to come down here, display the menu, stay in here until they enter a 4. If they enter a 3, it is going to remove someone from the list. So you want to verify that the person that they want to remove is actually in the list. So we have names in our list, and there is a method called contains that will take the variable that you pass and it'll check every single row in that list to see if that name exists. Okay, so we're going to read in whatever they type, and let's say they type in Minnie. Okay, so it's going to check the entire list. Okay, so members, that's our list, to see if it contains Minnie. Okay, if the answer is true, Minnie is in the list, then we are going to remove it. So we do members.remove, and we are sending it Minnie. So that is what they have to remove. And then we are printing out a little message that the name has been deleted. If they enter a name that is not in our list, maybe they made a typo or they made a mistake, then this is going to be false because the list does not contain the name they typed, and we will print this message out. Okay, so that is how this processes, and I would encourage you guys to copy it and run it so you're familiar with what it does, because you are going to need to do something similar. So you're going to create a similar program, but instead of having a list of members, you are going to be creating a bucket list. And so this is going to be a list of places that you would like to visit. So you're going to create a list, and you're going to initialize your list with 4 places that you'd like to go. You're going to create a menu that lets the user select an option, just like the example, to print the sorted list, to add to the list, or to delete from the list. And then give them an option to quit. Okay, and then you're going to use a while loop to keep the program running until the user selects to quit. Inside the while loop, you are going to either do a nested if else or a switch to check their menu choice. Okay, just like we did over here. I used an if else, but actually I think switch might be a better choice, and you guys can decide which one you want to do, but you need to check their menu choice to see what they want to do. And then you do need to call an appropriate method. So at the very minimum, you need at least an add method and a print method. If you would like to create a menu method and a delete method, awesome, but I am not requiring that, okay? If you want to delete, because you're also going to have to give them the option to delete, just like the example. If you want to delete, right in the main method, that's okay, because the deletion code is pretty simple. Okay, but if you would prefer to pull that out into a method, awesome, you can do that. And when you are checking using contains, you're just making sure that if they're going to delete a location from the bucket list, you want to make sure that it's actually in the list. If it's there, go ahead, delete it. If it's not, display a message. So you're going to test your code to make sure it all runs, and then you will be submitting to the Dropbox. So that is exercise 3. Exercise 4, you are going to be doing an array list. So an array list is a non-generic collection, which means that it is not tied to a data type. So you can add values that are different data types. But there are some limitations to using this, which we've discussed in the chapter. So in this example, I've got a couple constant characters or strings that I'm going to use for headings. I've got a menu variable because here I am using a menu method. And then I've got 2 different array lists. My array list employees is kind of the main one. And you can see how we create this. And I did add some by initializing, and I'm basically establishing a pattern here. So we've got the employee, their title, and you can interpret that as salary or age or whatever you want to think of it as. I think I was, hours worked. Okay. So those 3 things are all related. Okay. And then I've got an empty array list for adding new employees. So first thing I do is print out the company heading, or the heading with the company in the year. And that is a method. And then I display the little menu and I retrieve from the menu. Again, if you guys want to create a menu method, that's awesome. Otherwise, you can do something similar. For this, you can use a switch, or you can do a while loop like I did. Either one is fine. And then I've got, we're going to stay in here as long as they didn't select a 5. And here I've got number 1. So this is for printing the employees. So first I print a heading, and then I call print employees. These are both methods. And you can see I am passing the employee array list down to the print employees. So here's the print company heading, where I'm bringing in those 2 constant strings. Okay, and that's how I'm printing it out. And then here is the print employee. So the data type here is array list. It is not strongly typed, so we don't need angle brackets. But while I'm in this method, I'm going to refer to the data as emp. So it's an emp object in here. I'm creating a little index. I set to 0, and I'm going to display the values by index. So in order to remove something from an array list, you actually need to use that index. So by printing out the index next to the data, then we can tell which thing we want to delete. So I've got a for each here, and I'm using var because I've got different data types in my array list. I have string, and I have another string followed by an integer, okay, different data types. So var works very well for that. While I am in the for each loop, I am going to refer to the element that I'm working with as E. Okay, so it's var E in emp. Emp is the object. Okay, so I've got console.write. Index is referring to this value that is currently 0. And in this case, we do want to print a 0. Okay, because if they're going to delete, 0 is a valid option for deletion. Okay, so I'm printing out a 0 and a dot, and then I'm retrieving E. So the first time through, I am going to be retrieving mini. So E is going to be mini. So mini gets printed out, and I add 1 to the index. Second time through, the title developer is going to be retrieved. So now my index is 1. So I've got a 1 and a period. I have retrieved developer, and that gets printed. So I'm basically taking this value and sending it to string. And then you might think, well, why do you have to do that if mini and the title are strings? I'm doing that because not all of the data is string. So the hours are not string. So it does not hurt to send a string to the toString method. And you need to do that for anything that is not a string. Okay, so I am sending the hours to string so they can print. And in this case, I'm on number 1, which is the title. Add 1, now I'm on number 2. Number 2 happens to be the hours. And so I'm going to do a 2 and a dot, and then I'm going to be retrieving, I believe it's 60. And then index goes up to 3. And then we have a 3 and a dot, and E is going to be Mickey at this point. And so that goes and prints. And you can see it's just going to go through each one of these. E is going to represent the current value that it has retrieved from the employee's array list. So E is always whatever value it has retrieved. So that is how we're printing them out. And then we are going to return to where that was called. If they select A2, they want to add more people. So again, we're printing out the headings. We are calling add emp. So let's come down here and see what add emp does. You'll notice that we're not passing it anything, but it is returning an array list. So how many employees do you wish to add? We're reading in the number. Array list new employees equals new array list. And then here is where we're filling them in. So we've got I is our index, and we're going to stay in here while I is less than the number they entered, which represents how many people they want to add. And so we just prompt them for the name. And we do new employees, which is our array list object, .add. And we are taking that content right from the console and adding it. And then we've got employee position. We've got new employee add. Again, we are taking the content right from the input queue and adding it to our array list. We've got hours. Okay, again, taking that content and adding it. And hours is an integer. So we are using int.parse to convert it. Okay, and so this is going to add, the data, and then it's going to return it. Okay, so it returns it to the point it was called, which is right here. And we happen to have another array list waiting to store the data. Okay, so new emp is going to store the data we just added. It is an array list. And then we can take our employee object, our array list object, and call add range. And we're passing it the new employee array list. So basically, it'll take all those new employees and add them to the end of the existing employees. Okay, so 1 was printing, 2 was adding, 3 is deleting. So again, printing out the heading. If you want to create a delete method, you can. Okay, and you can call the method. I kept it here, but you guys, it's your design, so you can do what you want to do. Anyway, enter the index number of the person you want removed. The name, title, and hours will be erased. So we're going to read that in. And then we are assuming, now you can design this a couple different ways. I designed it assuming that they would be removing 3 things. Okay, so we are going to start wherever they kind of indicated here. We've got integer index number equals whatever number they key. Okay, and we're going to end up going through this 3 times. So we start removing at the index they specify. And so remember, be helpful for you guys to see what this data looks like. So we've got mini. Okay, so position 0, we got mini. Position 1, I think we got developer. Position 2, we have 60 hours. Position 3, we got Mickey. And then let's see what Mickey was. Well, Mickey's in sales. Okay, so then we've got sales. Position 5, 40 hours. Got position 6 is Donald. 7, marketing. 8, 50. Okay, so how this deletion works. They should hopefully ask for a printout with the index numbers. Okay, and then we are going to loop through 3 times because our data is in groups of 3. Okay, and so here we've got employees.remove at index number. So let's say we want to delete Mickey. They would have had to have entered index 3. Okay, so here we remove Mickey. Boom. Okay, so now sales is 3. And we kind of resequence these guys. Okay, we're going to loop through this 3 times. So that was the first time. Okay, so we're going to remove again at the index number. And so we are going to remove sales. Whoopsie, remove too much. Okay, then we go through our 3rd and last time, removing at the index number. Do a little resequencing here. And that is what we have left. Okay, and then after we remove, we say the values have been deleted. The other option in the menu is a 4, where you can actually remove everybody. So we print the heading, do the clear command, say it's all gone. And then if they don't pick any of this, they made an invalid selection, and we display the menu again. And so that is how this program works, and you are going to do something similar. But Instead of having a list of employees and the titles and the hours worked, you are going to have a to-do list. So you are only going to need two things in the list. Okay. First thing will be a string, which is a description. And the second is the number of hours and minutes it's going to take you to do the task. Okay. So you've got basically a string and a double value. So you're going to be creating your array list. Okay. And then you're going to need a menu similar to the one in the example. And if you want to create a method, awesome. If you don't have to. The menu should have the same options as the example. So you print by index, add to the array list, delete an activity and its hours, or you can delete everything. You also should give them the option to quit. So you're going to have either a while loop, or you certainly could use a switch. Well, actually, you're going to need the while loop to continue processing. So make sure you do a while loop. As long as they haven't chosen the option to quit, you are good. Within the while loop, that is where you can do a nested if else or a switch. And that is totally up to you, which one you want to use to process the menu commands. You will need at least a print by index method, an add method, a deletion or delete code method. So you can include the code in a nested if else or switch, or you can create a method. So it's deletion code or a deletion method, either one. So in the example, I did not do a deletion method. Okay, I have code deleting the code here and deletion code here, no method. Okay, so you can choose to do it this way, or you can create methods, but you need to have a method for printing and for adding. So you need at least two. And if you want to do one for deleting and one for deleting all and one for a menu, that's fine. Okay, so totally up to you. Then the only thing that I'm going to warn you about when you're deleting is that if you are using this as a model, I am deleting three things because I have three items that are related. You do not have three items that are related. You only have two items that are related. So you are going to need to change that number. Okay? Otherwise, you will be deleting too many things. Okay, so that is my word of warning. So I would run the example, make sure you understand how that works, and then create your own program. And when you are done, you've got everything working correctly, then you can submit it to the Dropbox. If you run into any questions or if you have problems, please let me know because I am here to help you.